Hello guys, Charles here and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be debunking 3 big guitar myths. I've heard these on the internet, I've heard these in person from my students, I'm sure you've heard these too. And these are by no means the only guitar myths, there's plenty more, so let me know the ones I've missed down below. And as always, these are just my thoughts, so I'd love to hear yours. So the first myth is that your gear isn't good enough. Now, once upon a time this would have certainly been true. However, nowadays it's so difficult to find a truly terrible piece of gear that's so bad it's actually hindering your progress. Most of the time nowadays, we spend all our time watching gear videos on YouTube because they're amusing, and I think we're all thinking of the same channel here. We love watching them and we love checking out all the new gear. However, it's time that could be spent elsewhere, i.e. time that could be spent in the practice room. Now, by all means, do have those aspirational bits of kit, those aspirational bits of gear, but don't think that they are in any way going to make you a better player. They aren't. They're simply nice things to have. Now, of course, I'm talking as someone who owns a Kiesel guitar, which is a pretty pricey bit of kit, and a lovely Henriksen amp. Those are really, really nice. However, I'd been playing for well over 15 years at the time I bought those, and up until that point, I'd been using a Marshall DFX amp, which is probably 100 odd quid, and a Partsacaster that I assembled myself from bits off the internet. Again, probably a few hundred quid. It's really hard to buy bad gear nowadays. So set yourself a realistic bit of gear. Say, I'm going to buy that gear, maybe this amp and that guitar, and then I'm going to shut up about gear. I'm going to stop worrying about it. I'm not going to keep trying to build my pedal board. I'm not going to be just adding, just this one more thing. The only things you should be spending your gear money on are great strings. They really make a difference. I use Optima strings, but there's plenty of other great strings out there. Now they're pricey for strings, but in the grand scheme of things, 15 quid for a packet of strings every month or two isn't really breaking the bank. Secondly, good cables, good leads, all that sort of stuff. Making sure you're not introducing any noise into your setup. That stuff's important. And thirdly, spend the rest of your money on education. Learn how to be better. Pay for some lessons. You could buy all of Garzone's educational material for the price of a Squire. You buy everything he's ever written, his entire brain downloaded. And I'd much rather be someone who could play everything by Garzone on the guitar, but was playing a Squire, than someone with a Kiesel who's just blagging about it. So in summary, stop worrying about gear and crack on. Myth number 2 is that you don't need music theory. Now, we often hear great players talking about how they know no music theory. Slash comes to mind. I remember reading that when I was 12 or 13, that Slash didn't know any music theory, so I thought, I'll not know any music theory as well. Now, what these guys mean when they say they know no music theory is they wouldn't be confident using the correct academic labels for the theories they use. However, if they knew no music theory, they wouldn't be able to play other songs. They'd be playing all the wrong notes. They know which notes work in certain contexts. They know which rhythms are appropriate to use in a rock song versus a jazz or a blues song. They know the differences. Now again, they might not be able to do this with pen and paper and assign the correct academic terms to this, or maybe lay it out on a score or anything like that, but they do know theory. And so you need to know theory too. Do not be convinced that you don't need to know music theory. You do. You just don't need to know as much as academic theory courses usually try and convince you do. Those are more aimed for people wanting to pass pen and paper exams and go off into the world of music academia. But for practical music theory, there really isn't a huge amount you need to know, but the stuff you do need to know, you need to know it inside and out and back to front. And the plug here is my new theory book is now out. You can check that out in the description box below, and it is designed for theory that is practical, theory you actually need to use, rather than theory that's just so you can get a qualification. So in summary, myth number 2, you do need to know music theory, but you only need to know relevant, applicable music theory. And the great news is it's nowhere near as overwhelming or as much to learn as we often think it is. It can seem very impenetrable when we take the academic approach to music theory. And guitar myth number 3 is that you're just one secret tip away from mastering that skill. Now, it could be anything. It could be alternate picking, it could be tapping, it could be whatever the thing is, legato, chops, you name it. It could be anything at all. But there is a lot more in music than just one secret trick. Now, there is a secret, but it's not a secret any of us want to pay to hear. Now here's the secret. The secret is called progressive overload. So progressive overload is a gym terminology, and in the gym it means you do the same exercise over a long period of time and you gradually add weight or resistance of some sort. You basically make the challenge harder. Now there's several ways that we can create progressive overload on the guitar. It could be ramping up our metronome speed over time. It could be keeping the metronome consistent but changing the note divisions. It could be adding notes to what you've already got, i.e. getting 2 or 3 notes at speed and then trying to add a 4th note. Lots of different ways of going about it. But again, the truth behind this myth is you need to do it little and often over an extended period of time. One of the things that I would advise in this instance when we're talking about technique is to avoid technique books. I know that sounds like a daft thing, but the problem is we can sit and do exercises, for example, the classic 5, 6, 7, 8 on the E string, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the A string, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the D string, going through that semi-chromatic scale. But the issue is you're never going to play that. It's very, very rare that you would use that in a musical setting. Now, there are some examples. For example, John Petrucci does occasionally use that. I think in Stream of Consciousness he plays ideas based on that. But generally speaking, those are not exercises that you're going to be playing. So I would suggest instead that you find challenging musical motifs or licks that you are actually going to want to play, and you keep note of the ones that you find difficult, keep them short, keep them brief, and you work on those using the method of progressive overload over several years. So stick with it, and when you do get to the point where you're happy with your technique, which is important, you've got to kind of set a limit. You can't just constantly be trying to get better and better and better. There's not really any point. You've got to say, you know, at this point I'll be happy. At that point you'll look back and say there were no shortcuts. It was simply gradual effort and consistent effort over time. I couldn't have bought this by purchasing a PDF or, you know, paying for a video course. You can't buy that stuff. So there you go, 3 musical myths. You don't need more gear, you do need music theory, and there's no secret to mastering that technique. So which myths have I missed? There's probably plenty more that I've not covered here. Let me know down below. Let me know if you disagree with my opinion on these things. These sort of conversations always bring out the best commenters, so thank you in advance for those. If you are interested in checking out the theory book, as I mentioned, you'll see it down below. I've put up on the website a list of all the topics covered. And as I say, it's really about knowing the basics inside and out, and that's what the focus of the course is. If you did find this one useful, please do give it a like, subscribe, and share with any of your friends who you think might benefit from having these myths busted. And as always, I hope you're all doing very well, getting plenty of practice in, and I very much look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers!